The Silent Ward. Late one stormy night, young nurse Aisha stepped into St. Mary's General Hospital for her first night shift. The sprawling, aging hospital had a reputation, not for its medical care, but for the whispers of eerie occurrences in its oldest wing, Ward 13. As Aisha was briefed by her senior, she couldn't help but notice how quickly the conversation shifted whenever Ward 13 was mentioned. "It's been closed for years," they said. "No one goes there." Curiosity gnawed at her as the night wore on. The flickering fluorescent lights and distant echoes only heightened her unease. Around midnight, she decided to take a brief walk to familiarize herself with the building. Her footsteps echoed eerily in the empty corridors, and the storm outside cast sinister shadows on the walls. As she approached a set of double doors marked Ward 13 in faded, peeling letters, she paused. A strange, almost magnetic pull urged her to push the doors open. The air inside was cold, and the scent of antiseptic lingered, mingling with a faint metallic tang. The ward was dimly lit, with rows of abandoned beds and rusting equipment. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling. It was meant to be a whisper, but it echoed unnaturally, carrying down the empty hall. For a moment, there was silence, and then a soft shuffle. Aisha's heart raced. She turned to leave but froze when she saw movement in the corner of her eye. One of the beds was occupied. A figure lay beneath a thin, tattered blanket. "Excuse me, are you okay?" she asked, stepping closer, though every fiber of her being screamed at her to run. The figure didn't respond. Trembling, she reached out to pull back the blanket. Just as her fingers touched the fabric, the lights flickered and went out completely. Aisha's scream caught in her throat as she felt something ice-cold grip her wrist. The lights buzzed back to life, and the bed was empty. But the imprint of a hand, small, pale, and childlike, lingered on her skin. Panicking, she stumbled backward, only to trip over an object on the floor. Looking down, she found a small, weathered teddy bear. A tag on its ear read, "Property of Lily, Room 104. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, Aisha searched for Room 104, her steps quick and unsteady. When she reached it, the door creaked open as though expecting her. Inside was a single bed with neatly arranged sheets and a dusty photograph on the nightstand. She picked it up and saw a little girl in a hospital gown holding the same teddy bear. A sudden whisper filled the room, "You found me." Aisha spun around, but no one was there. The photograph in her hand felt heavier, colder. She glanced back at it and gasped. The little girl's face was now pressed against the glass, her expression twisted in anguish. A loud crash jolted Aisha from her trance. The bed in the room was now overturned, and scrawled on the wall in dripping red letters were the words, "Help me." Terrified, Aisha fled the room, but the corridor outside seemed different. The walls were darker, the air thicker. Shadows shifted unnaturally, and whispers floated from nowhere, growing louder with every step she took. The hospital felt alive, pulsating with an unseen energy. As she rounded a corner, she heard faint laughter, childlike, yet distorted, as if played in reverse. Her footsteps quickened, but no matter how fast she ran, she felt as though she wasn't getting anywhere. The corridor stretched endlessly, and the laughter grew louder, now mixed with muffled cries and faint pleas for help. Finally, she spotted a stairwell and darted inside. The heavy door slammed shut behind her with a deafening clang, and the sound echoed for far too long. The stairwell was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of an emergency light. Descending quickly, she felt a sudden chill as though something was following her. She dared to glance over her shoulder and saw a shadowy figure, small, hunched, and moving unnaturally fast. Her breathing ragged, Aisha stumbled down the stairs and burst into the ground floor corridor. Relief washed over her when she saw the faint glow of the security desk ahead, but as she approached, she noticed the guards weren't moving. Their backs were to her, stiff and unnaturally still. "Help me!" she cried out, reaching for the nearest guard. As she touched his shoulder, his head turned, a full 180 degrees. His face was a hollow, gaping void, and from within came the same distorted laughter that had haunted her earlier. Aisha screamed and backed away, only to collide with something solid. Spinning around, she found herself face to face with the little girl from the photograph. Her eyes were dark voids, and her mouth twisted into a sinister grin. The teddy bear dangled from her hand, its button eyes glinting with malice. "You can't leave," the girl whispered, her voice echoing unnaturally. "They never let me leave." The lights flickered violently, and the corridor began to collapse in on itself, the walls closing in like a vice. Aisha's screams mingled with the laughter and cries as darkness enveloped her. When the morning shift arrived, they found the hospital as it always was. The security guards reported no disturbances, and Aisha's belongings were still in the staff locker. But she was never seen again. Some say if you listen closely near Ward 13, you can hear faint footsteps and the distant, terrified screams of a nurse who got too curious.